I want to sit in this chair, but it won't stop. It won't stop moving. Ooh. Welcome back. Hopefully we don't lose any light. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. This is the first sit down video that I've done in a really long time. I think I did my interview series, but before that, it's been years since I've done a sit down video. But I've just been thinking that it would be nice in between projects to have an outlet to kind of just chat about different topics that I kind of find myself ruminating on, and to open up a discussion to kind of flesh out these ideas in my head and hope that they will resonate with people. And maybe by doing these videos, people will have something to take away, some sort of wisdom that I can impart. So yeah, I just thought that why not start with one about creativity, the creative process, and I guess just really being a creative in general. So as you can tell by the title, I wanted to talk about how creativity will not abandon you. It kind of ties into writer's block and how that's not a real thing, but maybe that should be a separate video. Today I just want to talk about being a creative person and having like an underlying fear that those creative ideas and the creative thought process is something that you always have to be grasping for, rather than it's just something that you are, which is what I truly believe. So I have some notes on my phone. This video is not going to be very long. I'm hoping maybe I can break it down for you in case there is a certain topic you want to skip to. But I just want to start by saying that I did The Artist's Way back in, I want to say I started it last September, and I think I finished it at the end of the beginning of January. Anyway, obviously if you're on TikTok, everyone and their mother has been telling you to do The Artist's Way, or they talk about The Artist's Way, or they do their morning pages. And I just remember thinking, like, what the hell is morning pages? I knew it was some form of journaling, but I honestly hate journaling. And so I don't know what possessed me to actually check it out. But then once I did, I think it was actually one of my favorite creators. I know her name is Glitterbones on Instagram. I don't remember what it is on TikTok, but I think she had made a video about it. And I love her perspective on art and being creative in general. And so I thought, okay, I need to do this. I'm seeing it everywhere. I think it's a sign. And while I do think The Artist's Way was good, I do not think it was life-changing. I do not think that it is something that everyone needs to do. I think it can depend on age, background, you know, life circumstances, but it is not you're not missing anything. And I know some people might be upset by that. I know that not everyone's going to agree, and that's okay. But The Artist's Way is not something revolutionary. At least it wasn't for me. I also wanted to make a separate video on this, but I will just touch on it here a little bit. What I mean by that is I'm not trying to sound self-righteous. I'm not trying to sound prideful or that I was too good for the book. No, the thing that The Artist's Way did for me that I don't hear a lot of people talking about was it really helped me reconnect with my inner child. And your inner child really is where that creativity comes from. If you really think about it, creativity is what we do when we're not working, keeping a house, nourishing ourselves, and, you know, just dealing with the qualms of like everyday life, I guess you could say, or the stress of everyday life. It's kind of what we do with boredom. And I really think back to when I was a child, and I have boxes. I think I'm actually gonna show you guys in this video, but I have boxes that my grandmother kept for me, thankfully. I'm so glad she did, of things that I drew, colored, wrote. You know, there's pictures of me hot gluing things together, like, because I didn't have a sewing machine, so I would hot glue things together and make clothes and do fashion shows. And she would take pictures of that, and now I have all these keepsakes of what I like to do as a kid. And I'm so glad that she kept all of that stuff, not only to remind me of who I am and how I've always been somebody who loves to be creative and make things. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I guess use my imagination. I'm glad she kept them because it reminded me of that inner child, of who I am when I let my imagination soar, when I'm able to do that. And I think that as many of you know, I'm an author. I just published my second novel. My first novel came out last July, and that whole journey really helped reconnect me to my inner child. Just writing that book during COVID, learning how to self-publish, learning how to create a book, all of that, you know, really connected me that, and that is what reminded me of who my inner child was and what she loved to do. But I read The Artist's Way a few months ago, and so The Artist's Way just kind of helped deepen, I guess, what my inner child wants, and I guess the medium that I like to play with. But I mean, writing isn't the only medium, it's just the main one, and it's what I want to do like as a career as well, which she touches a lot on in The Artist's Way, of how to use your creativity to like become a career, and how it's not childish to think that you can make a career out of that creativity. But the main point of The Artist's Way, spoiler alert, is for, you know, it's called like the creative hangover. It's called the creativity like rehab, I guess you could say. It's like rehabilitation for creatives who no longer believe in themselves and haven't created in such a long time, or are burnt out, or artistic recovery. So I guess rehabilitation is a good word. But The Artist's Way is technically a self-help book. And like I said, don't get me wrong, it was beautiful. It really helped me in some ways. And I did enjoy all the quotes she had written throughout it. I enjoyed the progression. It's a 12-week self-help book. No, I did enjoy seeing her process in creating that. I think it's absolutely brilliant for people who need it. I don't think everyone needs it. I think if you have a strong sense of who you are, if you have a strong idea and you just are ready to see where it takes you and you start working on it, you don't really need the book. It's more for people who might have low self-worth, who might have a lot of reprogramming to do around like negative self-talk, or maybe like parents that had brought them up to not believe in themselves. It's for people like that, essentially, okay? And not everyone deals with that. Not everyone suffers from that. There are a lot of great artists who don't even think about it. They're like, this is just what I do, and if you like it, great. If you don't, you can lump it, as my grandma would say. And I'm one of those people. I've just thankfully always been very confident and sure of myself, and that doesn't mean I don't have second thoughts like, oh, well, are they gonna think this is stupid? Or, you know, you're always gonna naturally have some form of negative narrative in your head about something you're doing, because that's just the world we live in, and it's just up to you to take that with a grain of salt, or to actually stop and reassess and be like, well, do I really love this idea enough to see it through, or do I maybe need to make some changes? It really just got me thinking about how we just see these modalities sometimes and we just run with it, and we think that everyone should do it. We think that one size fits all. And I feel like that's what happened with The Artist's Way. And I'm getting way off on a tangent, and like I said, I'm gonna save that for another video. Let's get into what I actually wanted to talk about in this video. And that is how your creativity is not going to abandon you. And what really sparked this thought was this Glennon Doyle quote that keeps getting recycled on podcasts, on Instagram, and it's like something along the lines of, if you have an idea and you don't execute it, it moves on to the next person, and then you're like angry that you didn't act on that idea, and now someone else gets to execute it and pursue the dream you had of bringing that to life. I don't believe that's true. So I kind of want to start off by talking about how my creative process works. Like I said, now I just released my second book. I have another project that I'm working on, and then I have an idea for a series of books after that. But the way my creative process works is, honestly, I move very quickly. And I want to say that because it's important to know what your process is. Not only because you need to get to know yourself on a deep level and understand who you are as a person and what feels good and works for you, because that's healthy and that's what you should do, but also because there is just so much information out there about how you should be doing things. And I feel like sometimes we can get so lost in that And I just think with the age of the internet and TikTok, like people see how one thing works for someone else and then try to apply it to themselves, and then they get burnt out or they give up, and then it's because they don't realize that it's not the way that you should be doing it. Yeah, my creative process is I have an idea and it doesn't let me go. I think about it before I go to bed. I think about it in the morning. I see something like as I'm like out in my day, like on my way to work, I'll have an idea for a book, and then, you know, the main character, slowly the ideas just start forming, and it's almost, the only way I can describe it is almost like a download. It's like little pings and downloads for me to ruminate on and then build on top of. So even when I try to take a break, like I'm trying to do now, I try to take a break from my work. I promise I do. It follows me. The idea follows me until I am done executing it. It will not leave me alone. And I was just thinking about how cool that is, because that means that my creativity will never abandon me. It doesn't mean I need to write every little thing down, which can be helpful sometimes, but a lot of the times I find when I just allow myself to rest and relax, even for a very short amount of time, like even for a day, the ideas, they're like, oh, remember you thought about that, and remember you wanted to do this, and remember you were gonna tie this thing into that. I wonder if some of you out there are like me in that way. I would love to know. I don't know if you're into human design at all, but I love human design. And even before I knew I was a manifesting generator, I've been this way. I'm chaotic, I'm all over the place. I always have to be like working on something fun and creative, not like 24/7, but I have found that every day I just have so much energy to give to things, like things that give back to me. And I do feel like writing is one of those things. Obviously it's so rewarding. It gives back to me, it pours into my cup. So I just find that if I do something every day that really like gives my inner child something to do and fills that boredom for my inner child, I just sleep so much better at night. And sometimes that could even be like a Pinterest board or a TikTok or Reels or editing Instagram photos. And it doesn't have to be something as intricate as a YouTube video or as writing a few chapters in a book. It really can just be the small things like scrapbooking or creating a vision board. But I just know for me personally, I have to use my creativity in some way every single day to feel fulfilled. And otherwise I get this like festering, like pent up energy is the only way I know how to describe it. And sometimes it can even feel like anxiety if I don't do like one thing every day. And like I said, even if I don't, it'll follow me. It follows me around like a bee or a fly. Anyway, for the sake of getting through this, because my camera is dying, we need to move on. So the next thing I wanted to talk about in terms of creativity is that whole Glennon Doyle quote that has been going around. I kind of already touched on this a little bit, but yeah, the quote is basically saying like if you have an idea for something and you don't act on it for whatever reason, or you're gonna see that idea come to fruition for somebody else, like maybe you see a TikTok or a music video or something, you're like, oh my gosh, I had the idea for that. Oh, why didn't I do it? And she believes that means it's because the idea left you because it knew that you weren't going to execute it and went to somebody else. I don't know, to me that just sounds like BS. I think that the reason it could appear that way, now I'm saying we all have different philosophies on things, and you know, who am I to say that that is incorrect? I just don't believe that from a personal standpoint, because number one, nothing is original, okay? It is only original if the person creating it has never been influenced by someone else who has done it. Like, it is only original if somebody hasn't seen an idea, you know, like if I had an idea for a book, and I had no idea that, let's say, like Lemony Snicket existed, and I wrote a series very similar to that, and then people started comparing me to Lemony Snicket. That would still, like, that would still be original to me because I didn't know who that was. But as you can see, to like everyone else, it wouldn't be an original idea. They would see some form of inspiration like I had drawn from Lemony Snicket, because we are so similar as people. Like, yes, we can be original and authentic in our own sense and self, and that just comes down to a foundation. Okay, I'm currently editing this and I feel like this doesn't really make much sense, but what I was trying to say is that many people can have the same idea without knowing that the other person's idea existed first, because our human experience is not unique to us. And I mean that in a good way. Like, I believe that everyone on this planet can find someone that they relate to, and that's a beautiful thing. I also feel like in this example that you could also say, like, if I had known who Lemony Snicket was, and it was my favorite series, which it is, as a kid I loved Lemony Snicket, that basically I could also create a story inspired by the series of unfortunate events, of course, and it would still be completely unique to me, even though I'm drawing inspiration from Lemony Snicket, because there are going to be pieces of me in it and my particular like unique voice, but also inspiration from the series of unfortunate events. I hope you're staying with me here. Foundational standpoint of who you are to your core and being that person, but nothing is original. Nothing, especially with the internet and music. Like, we all are inspired by each other, and the reason things are original in creation to us, technically original, is because we are doing it in our way. We're putting our stamp on it. So that's another thing. I don't believe that originality really exists. Authenticity exists, but everything's been done before. Every song's been written, every book's been written, every story's been told. And so a lot of people would argue, well, then why be an artist? And it's because nobody has told it like you. No one has your flavor. No one can have every word, you know, no one has your vernacular. You should still make art. And that quote also led me to think about this TikTok that I had seen of this girl who said, the reason you have that idea for that thing is because someone in the world needs it. Someone needs to read it. Someone needs to be inspired by it. And I just thought that that was such a beautiful sentiment, especially for people who just think, well, why should I write that story? Why should I write that silly little story? Like, I could have said the same thing about both of my books, but someone out there might need to hear that love story the way I put it and the moral of it. Someone out there might need to heal their people pleasing or need some comedic relief, like in a romantic comedy. Like, everything serves a purpose, and that includes you and your art. Okay, moving on. And then speaking about just like ideas in general, the best ideas come to me when I'm not forcing them. So this kind of ties into like writer's block, but my best ideas, and I'm not meaning like the one idea that is like, okay, this is what I want to write the book about. This is like the main thing. Maybe it's like an idea that this character does this in this chapter, or like this character lives here, or this is their aesthetic, or their friend is like this. Like those kind of ideas, like those little building blocks ideas, those come to me when I'm not doing anything. Like when I'm just dicking around, for lack of a better word, or if I'm taking a shower or brushing my teeth. It's like everyday things. And it's so funny because sometimes people will ask me like, what inspires you? Like, what inspired you to write this book? And honestly, I just want to be like, I don't know, I just wrote it. Like inspired me, like it just came from my brain. But I can't say that because I kind of would sound like an asshole. Where I gather inspiration is just by doing everyday things, and then my creativity takes over. I'll be watching a TV show and I think like, well, what if the character ended up actually doing this instead of like what happened on the TV show, or what if they actually lived here? And you can build a whole story out of that. And it's original because you're like creating a whole new world and idea out of someone else's story. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't know. I don't look for inspiration. Inspiration finds me, and then my own creativity swoops in and just starts like building a narrative around it and making it into something bigger. It's kind of like this snowball effect. And then like I said, I want to end the video here, but everyone's creative process is different. Every writer's process is different. Some people are more of a pantser, some are more of a plotter. Some people are trying to be more of a plotter, like myself, even though I am a pantser, but I will never lose that part of me that is a pantser, because that's just how my creativity works. I usually get ideas and they are usually the middle part of the story, and then it is my job as an artist to paint the world around it and to create the world around it. And that's just how my brain works. And if somebody out there was selling a course on how to not do that and not be that, I would not buy it. So I guess, I don't know, what is the whole point of this video for me to tell you, like, just trust your own intuition when it comes to your creative process, and just throw some spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks. And if this is your first painting, or maybe if this is your first book, your first short story, your first poem, just do it. Just write it, just create it, and decide if you liked the way you got from point A to point B. And if you don't, then on your next project, do it differently. Maybe take that advice and see if it works for you. But I just think at the end of the day, everything we have is within us, and we don't always need someone on the outside holding our hand and telling us how to get there. And sometimes it is more enjoyable when you just allow yourself to be that inner child and just see where the idea takes you and the creative process without giving yourself such rigid and harsh structure around the thing. And a lot of times that's like where the most beautiful project is born. You'll have the most beautiful end result from doing that, instead of stressing yourself out and applying pressure to yourself, trying to fit into a certain box and like do things the way everyone else does them. Yeah, sometimes you'll probably like the outcome a lot better. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you would like me to make the one on the artist way, please comment down below and give this video a like. And yeah, I have a feeling I'm gonna do it. But since I'm losing daylight and battery, I think this is all I have. So thank you for joining me in my chai latte and having this little chat. Now go work on that thing that you're avoiding.